Hey everyone, my name is Ryan and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my March TBR and I have a lot of books to get through, so let's get into it. First up is one that you probably saw coming, but that is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the final book in the Grisha trilogy, and I've read the first two books and I've vlogged the first two books, so I will link one of my vlogs on the screen, and I will be vlogging the experience of reading this one as well. Even though I didn't really love the first two books as a whole, I loved the ending to the second book and it left me in a really good place to be excited for the finale, and I have really high hopes for this one and I'm hoping that it doesn't disappoint. Next up, I want to read This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. This is a fairly popular science fiction novella about two ladies who are on opposite sides of a time war, and they are writing letters to each other and falling in love. I've actually read this book before and it was kind of disappointing. It went right over my head, but I kind of want to give it another try just because it has been some years and my reading tastes have changed a lot since I first read that book. And since reading it for the first time, I've seen a lot more people fall in love with it, so I'm hoping that if I give it another chance, I'll fall in love with it as well. And I will be reading it on audiobook. Next up, I am going to be continuing my reread of Saga by Brian K. Vaughan in this giant compendium that I have of all of them together. I've talked about the series before. I love Saga. It's my favorite graphic novel series. It's science fiction, it's intense, it's dramatic, things are always going wrong, and I've read it before, so I know what happens at the end, and I'm not ready. Next up, to help myself heal from Saga, I'm going to reread Volume 2 of Heartstopper. I've talked about this a million times. This is my other favorite graphic novel series. I reread Volume 1 in February. This is Volume 2. It takes off where Volume 1 left off, and it's just about two boys that meet in school and they fall in love, and this one goes more in depth into their relationship and coming out and things like that, and I'm excited to get back into it. Next, I want to read Hungry Hearts, 13 Tales of Food and Love, edited by Elsie Chapman and Caroline Tung Richmond. This is a short story collection, and I'm trying really hard to get into short story collections this year, so I'm really excited for this one. But this one is all about food. Overall, I'm expecting this just to be very light, very happy, and very diverse, I'm hoping. And yeah, I can't really explain why, but I have really high hopes for this, so I'm excited to read it. Next up, I want to read The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. I think this is one of the staples of LGBT YA fiction, especially from the early 2000s, and I also think that everyone has basically read this, except for me. I haven't read it yet. But this book follows a girl, and I think she's either bisexual or a lesbian, but she's probably a lesbian. And she ends up having to move in with a really conservative family member, and I believe she ends up being sent to conversion therapy. This is a book that is going to be very difficult for me to read. This is a topic that I'm super sensitive to, but I also think that this is a really important book to read and really important for the community as well. But yeah, I'm expecting this to be a really emotional experience, but I'm expecting to get a lot out of it, and I'm hoping that I fall in love with it. Next, I want to read Life Isn't Binary: On Being Both, Beyond, and In Between by Meg John Barker and Alex Ian Taffy. I've actually read a couple of gender theory and queer theory books by Meg John Barker before. They're actually right here in the corner. But I read both of those and I got a lot out of them and I really loved them, so I have really high hopes for this. This is a nonfiction book about the gender spectrum and non-binary genders and that whole experience, but also how non-binary thinking can be applied to other aspects of life. And just like their other books, I'm expecting to get a lot out of this, and I'm excited to read it. And lastly, and I don't know if I'm going to hit this one because I have a lot planned, but I'm going to try to, I want to read Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I am so excited for this. This is a YA fantasy that's, I think, been described as Percy Jackson meets the Hunger Games, which is everything to me. Like, that speaks to me on like a spiritual level. Essentially, this takes place in a world where I think the Greek gods have been cast down to earth and they are being hunted down, and I'm assuming that Medusa's a part of it, which I hope so. I'm gonna be a little upset if she's not because I love her. And yeah, that's really all I know about it, but that's all I need to know about it. I'm on board, I'm excited, I'm gonna read it. And yeah, that's it for the books that I want to read in March. If you've read any of these, let me know what you think without spoiling it, but let me know what you think that I'm going to think. But that's all that I have for you today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to smile. Bye!